Hey everyone, this is Louise Sent. I am joined by Josh Fabel. Josh is Josh has been with Gartner for the last 8 years and has evolved from an account executive in 2013 through a series of different promotions. His first one as a sales manager, and now he's a senior business development manager in a startup function at Gartner. That's super exciting, and he's managing a team of 14. They've grown over 200x in the last 2 years, and they're continuing to grow their headcount. So I brought on Josh today to talk to us about sales coaching and how he helps empower and develop his sales team. And Josh, take it away.
Thanks, Louise. Appreciate you you inviting me to this. I was excited. It's good to connect with you again. It's been a while. But yeah, I've now been a sales leader at Gartner for 4 years, and wanted to join this discussion just to help new sales leaders understand maybe some of the pitfalls that I had at the beginning of my career and what I thought sales leadership was, and really what it turned out to be, and then help people go along that journey and maybe hopefully not take 4 years for them to learn some of the lessons that I learned and maybe expedite that a little bit for them.
Love it. That sounds perfect.
So one thing that we could probably jump in is to my philosophy on sales leadership and just leadership in general. I've had a number of different leadership positions throughout my career, or sports, or other things like that, but really started clicking later in life what leadership really was. And it's when you actually adopt the mindset where there is no I or me, right? It has to be we and us. And in my business unit, and I'm sure in a lot of people that'll be viewing this, your goal is to hire top talent, and and attract, keep, retain, and grow that top talent. And if you're hiring people with that kind of acumen, with that kind of experience, they're going to be able to smell out instantly when your intentions are your own versus you're actually invested in them and they want to be successful. So I had to take a look back at my life and think about some of the sales leaders or leaders in general where I actually performed and when I didn't. And it was interesting to me that in some places I did really well and I didn't enjoy where I worked. In other places I loved where I worked and I didn't do well. So my goal was always to figure out how can I meld the two to give a place where people want to work for you, not need to work for you just because of your title, and ultimately create an environment where people are empowered, they're inspired, and motivate themselves to exceptional results. So that's been my goal overall.
I love that. I love how you went retrospectively and, rather than look at everything now, say, when did I perform best? Who got me to work harder for them? Who did I love going to go to work for in terms of, I'm going to perform at least. So I'm reading, we talked about this before. I'm reading this book called Multipliers, and it talks about exactly that. It's who will you perform better for, and like who can get more than 100% out of you, and why are you doing that? And it's usually because they make you feel like you're a genius. You leave the room feeling smarter.
Yeah, I couldn't echo that more. And I think what's interesting about sales, and it's been the majority of my career has been sales, so I have a little bit of blinders as to what other business units can struggle with. But in life, there's ups and downs, right? And in sales, we all know there are times of great success, great commission checks, all the things that are lovely and why people get into sales. And there's also times where people are really going to struggle on your team, and that's your opportunity as a leader to really step up. And if you've built that relationship, you've built that trust, and you really believe in them, that ultimately will motivate someone, then motivate themselves to get out of that hole. So just kind of adopting that mentality overall is my philosophy. And the other piece, and I'm trying to avoid this word motivate as in me motivating others, because I truly don't think that's possible at all. When someone tells me to motivate my team, I think I'm going to throw my hands up, because personally, I think you can inspire others through action and servant leadership and all those things that are vastly important to bring followership. But for me, you cannot motivate someone. They can only motivate themselves. And that plays into that whole piece of we, us, collectively, they'll surge towards that goal. So yeah, that's my
So
goal overall.
so there's no motivational conference at the beginning of every day where you say, everybody, let's call. I remember I had a manager who used to do that, and I don't know if it was motivating. It was like, I think it was a little more scary than anything, but she would walk in the room, she would see that our phones weren't all blinking. So she would run from her office, walk in our room, open the door and hit scream, call.
Yeah, that not great, not great. It's a good start, right? I'm not going to dress it up. I actually sold. I did door-to-door sales in Dallas, and if anyone watching this has ever done door-to-door sales, you're probably going to agree it is a grind, an absolute grind.
Absolutely.
And so you get into those rooms and you got that guy clapping, trying to get everyone up, but you know, it can work for some. It does not work for the majority of individuals, right? So for me, to your point, I think what's more important than showing an inspiring video at the beginning of your team meeting and you know, maybe a speech from someone. I used to do that. I'm guilty of it myself to open up a team meeting. It's more important to show some goal collectively that they've actually believed in with their why behind it. And you're going to get people really jazzed up to work and really jazzed up to perform.
I love that. So and we talked a lot about just the mindset around coaching and leadership, and I think that's super valuable. But this is a good segue into what we were discussing here, where you have sales teams meetings. So what do you think is the ideal structure from that? You've seen these meeting evolves from, your first meeting as a SDR at Gartner, or AE at Gartner, excuse me. And how has that changed throughout? Like, do you still do weekly meetings? You said everybody's aligned towards a certain goal. Like, how,
Yeah.
if you don't mind sharing some structure around that, I'd love to.
So it's interesting, right? Like the weekly team meeting, the dreaded weekly team meeting in some cases for
Why does it have to be dreaded, right? Like,
why does it have to be dreaded?
Let's
Exactly.
get excited about these.
And my thing is too, I'm not a person that can drink the Kool-Aid right away, right? If someone comes in and tries to hype me up on a web, especially these Zoom calls and stuff, it's gonna be hard to get me jazzed up. But the fact of the matter is, I think it's really important to make that meeting the team's meeting, not your meeting as a leader. I always like to open up with some boringly predictable slides, like first and foremost, the recognition for the people that sold the deals this week, because everyone loves to, have their face up there and show that, hey, they're hitting their quota, they're hitting their metrics. And second is collectively the teams, the stack rankings of the teams, so they can see where they stack against other people. Creates a little fun competition if you hire the right people that aren't scared to see that.
Taking notes here. This is so good.
and then thirdly, the collective goals of the group, right? And how we're tracking towards that. That is maybe 5-10 minutes tops. Why do I need to put an hour-long meeting with my team on the calendar when I have hour meetings with them to talk about their business reviews individually, right? I use the remainder of that, and I have 30-minute team meetings. I don't have long hour-long team meetings because I want them to be able to get back into their territory and executing and not getting information that's not useful to them or inspiring to them.
So with 14 people, you keep this down to 30 minutes. You need to write a book on this. This is amazing. I'm struggling with 4.
No, I get it. And it's tough too, because what I ended up started to focus on is, all right, so what are the needs that our team have overall? When we're talking about other skills that we need to build, is there critical information and updates to our products that they need to know in order to sell effectively? Are there big gaps in our sales cycles that we've spotted when we've zoomed out and we need to address as a team? But all I do, and another part about being a leader is delegating some of these things, is allow a team member who is an expert in this space to build a presentation and present on that and have a collective group discussion around it versus me presenting material as if I'm a savant in sales. There are things that I was very good at, and there are things that I dread in sales. Everyone does. But for me, I think it's really important to leverage their peers or who are the individuals that are going to pick them up. I thought about some of the sports teams that I excelled in, and it wasn't really my coach that made me do better. It was the fact that when I was on my hands and knees thinking about throwing up, the guy to my right said, "Hey, we got to keep going," right? And that's important to create in a corporate culture. And the only way to do that is to give people the spotlight, give them areas to highlight their strengths.
I love that analogy, but knowing you, and I've seen you play sports, I'm sure you're the other one, getting the other person on the floor hyped up. I can't
I
imagine
got
you
the
on the
dad
ground.
bod now, Luis. So we can't.
Amazing. So great structure there. So this is a good segue into one-on-ones. You said you do
Yep.
more detail. Are those also 30 minutes? Do
I keep those at an hour. I do
an
those at
hour?
an hour because there's two thoughts behind that. One is we've got a lot of business to go through. My business channel manages all of the global inbound sales for Gartner.
Hmm.
So if anyone calls Gartner's, I'm interested in becoming a client line, or fills out a form online that they want to learn more about Gartner and interested to become a client, my team is the one that reaches out for that. So we have a lot of sales cycles going all the time, and our business reviews can be very different week to week as to what who called this week, kind of thing. So for me, the first thing that I do in every single business review is I need to build rapport with my people, and I need to check their mindset. I think oftentimes we as leaders can have an underperforming sales rep, and we prepare for this call, and we're going to open this way, and we're going to address the data this way and really lay it out. But does that person on the other side of the phone have the capacity to actually absorb what you're saying right now? Or are they in a really negative space, and you need to just be a human being to them and be really transparent and be really there for them in order to overcome some of those fixed and growth mindset issues that we have. So that's the first thing that I always address. And I joked with my VP recently, saying, "Man, I really wish instead of I took an economics major, a minor, I should say, and it was helpful. I learned a lot about business and learned a lot about different things from a macro level and a micro level that are important in the economy. But I wish I took a minor in psychology, because when you get into sales and you get into sales leadership, I'm reading books about the human brain and how to create habits and all these other kind of things versus sales process and
Hmm.
the art of the deal. I feel like that's what you read when you first start, and then it starts moving into this segment. So always start with the mindset, make sure that the person is ready for that information. And then second, we obviously get into the business. I spend the bulk of the conversation talking about the various deals. And I do want to highlight one tactical piece when you're doing deal coaching that's really important. Um, Inherently, because you were successful at sales, you feel as though you need to coach them on what you would do in this sales cycle. It's natural to say, this is what you need to do. This is how you close this. This is how you do it. But that inherently creates a crutch in your people, right?
Hmm.
So what I like to do in the beginning is really get them to formulate, how would you tackle this? What you're coming to me with the problems. What are your solutions that you're potentially thinking of? And then
I
you
love that
help them
strategy.
navigate that path, as to what's going to be successful.
I love that.
Uh,
And sometimes you even come up with something, like they'll come up with something better than you would have thought of. And it's
100%. Exactly. It's like, I got a way I would do this. And we've all done it as sales coaches too. You spew out what you would do, and like, yeah, I already did that. I didn't listen. I didn't actually listen to my people and see how they already tackled that. We always talk about active listening is important in sales, but I think it's just as important in sales leadership of your people and understanding what they have done and what they haven't.
Yeah, it's so interesting to see, how it's done on your end. So I'm totally assuming here, but Gartner, your deal values are a lot higher than ours at Mailshake, where we have a monthly product that starts at $59 a month, and we have a $99 a month product. Obviously, we also sell annuals, and we have some bigger teams. It's a per seat type deal, but our average LTV is about 1,200. I'm assuming yours is a lot higher, right?
Yeah, we've had people go as low as $50,000 with Gartner for some smaller organizations, all the way to where we sold $500,000 deals, multi-year deals too, like 2 or 3 years. They'll be renewing that business. I think what makes it unique too, and I've had some of my friends that are in real estate that are, they sell real estate people. They sell $2-3 million worth of property, and that's a normal year for them. Um, it's mortgage over 30 years. We're action businesses for it. Like in the next 30 days, you got to pay us $500,000. So we got to be really tight on that value proposition, really tight on those things. But I think we talked briefly about the mindset piece. We talk about the business, obviously, and the sales coaching. And then I always wrap it up with action items and next steps. Because the thing is, if you don't wrap your meetings up with action items and next steps, you inherently become a micromanager.
Mm-hmm.
And micromanagement is the root of all turnover, in my opinion. People don't leave a company, they don't leave a manager. I actually believe that. And for me, it's my way in the following week to follow up on those action items, ensure that, we did those. And if not, coach towards them. If so, great. Let's build, our next action items for our business moving forward. Even more important in this remote environment, I'll hit as well, because when you first get thrown into this, you're a little concerned because your people could be doing anything, at any time. But yeah, great. I'm going to end up this call, and we've got limited technology to see what's happening. But you hire great talent, you hire people that are motivated, and if they're doing their job and they're hitting their metrics, I don't care. I don't care, what their structure looks like or those kind of things. And if it's not working, let's work on it together and find something that makes that balance in your life.
I love it. I definitely want to get into that transition. I totally forgot. Like, I assume everybody's like us, where we were remote pre-pandemic. So literally nothing changed. But it's always nice to see like what transpired from it. And it sounds like y'all, really adapted and are being super successful with it. But going back to the one-on-ones and call coaching,
Yeah.
where are you listening in to demos and giving specific feedback on demos, or how? What do you use software for that? Because it sounds like you're doing like a deal review and a pipeline review, but is there specific call coaching that you also do?
Yeah, I do sit on calls from time to time. I think in addition to that, you need to inspect what you expect in certain cases, right? Where if there's issues that someone has, repeatedly had some challenges getting power on the phone, for instance. In my conversations, I'm not going to analyze their flow, their style, why did they say this, then all of that. Because in my opinion, you got to take care of that in hiring great talent. You hire great people. Not everyone's going to sell the exact same way as you, but all of my people on my team have been winner circle achievers, which is, I think it's about the top 20% of Gartner. And then we've had multiple Eagle achievers. So that's the top 5, maybe top 100 reps in all of Gartner on this team. So for me to come in and coach on their style is not going to be as effective as kind of the macro pieces that we're really focused on. But again, that comes to that helicopter management thought process where I'm not one to be live on their calls. I don't think that's effective at all, because ultimately they're going to use you as a crutch again. And two, the micromanagement piece comes into play there, that you've got to trust that people are coachable. They're able to do what that you need to do to be successful, and that they're going to implement those things in the next call. So as long as my action items and next steps are getting addressed and the sales cycle is moving forward, I don't need to be involved, is my thought process around it.
That makes so much sense. So essentially, they, at the end of their calls, they need to come away with next steps and action items, and you're happy with that, and they're in the top 20%.
Yeah, I mean, there's I can't remember it's probably some YouTube video or something that I saw that talked about how SEAL Team 6 recruits, right? And it talks about how performance over trust. You would think that SEAL Team 6, the most elite, for
Yeah.
those watching, the most
Sounds
elite
like a
branch
McGoggins
of,
book. Yeah,
yeah,
David
yeah,
McGoggins.
exactly. And they recruit on the fact of, you would think it's the best soldier out there. I mean, the most accurate, the most stealthy, the ability to carry a lot of weight, but it's not really based on performance. It's more based on, can you trust them? They go all the way to, can you trust them with your money and your life? And then can they perform? Right? That's kind of, so they're taking people more on the trust side of things
Mhm.
versus on the performance side. And that's the way that I hire myself. Is I don't care if you have 5, 6 Eagle achievements. What I care about is what your team says about your like who you are as a person, who you are as a teammate, and how reliable you've been. Because I don't want to build a team of lone wolves. I want to build that collective group that's moving towards a goal. And that doesn't happen by hiring everyone that was a top performer.
I love that. Do does your team have peer reviews? Do they work with each other? You said
Oh,
they're
yeah. That's a
yeah.
big thing that you got to build in your teams. You got to build, again, a piece of delegation when you got a team of 14. You've got to have a constant loop of feedback, and it's got to come from their peers, right? Um, that analogy I gave of my sports team with my teammate to my right and my left that actually collectively moved me. Getting feedback from me can be crushing to individuals that in some cases where I can do the cookie approach where it's positive and then give the ice cream sandwich approach, I think I call it, positive, put
Yeah,
the tough
exactly.
stuff in the middle and the ice cream sandwich at the end, end on a positive note. But I think coming from your peers is when people really soak some of that information up. And oftentimes I'll see a peer who's struggling in one thing. I'll reach out to a peer who's really strong in that. And that's my job, is to facilitate that
Connect
coaching
them.
session.
Hmm.
And also hint to that person, hey, this person's having trouble with something that you have a strength in. But yeah, it's a big feedback. It's a big call coaching culture that I have, but it's around the team coaching each other.
Amazing. And how is that structured at all, or is it like on a I see this is a new rep and we're gonna partner
Yes.
them
So
with
we have
somebody,
a we
or
have a like the tactical piece. We have a Google sheet that every week on Monday the team fills out what calls at what time they have, and then I built a little drop down for who wants to shadow what. So someone can select that, and then we make sure all the slots are filled and everyone's shadowing to some degree.
this is so fun. It's I want to definitely make something like that, or see something like that. But this has been super valuable so far. One more question left for you,
Sure.
before I let you go here. The Any advice for reps trying to become better students? Like, how can they manage their success better? How can they manage their manager?
Yeah, I think that's a great question too, because your manager has expectations of you, but you should have some expectations with your manager. And I think you have to have a manager that's open to this conversation, I guess would be one thing. But I would be honest and transparent with them, like, hey, here's what I need from a leader for me to be successful. In my case, I need somebody to push me a little bit every once in a while, right? Sometimes I'm one that a repeatable process sometimes can be boring to me. Sorry
Yeah.
to use it can be really boring for me to do the things like campaigning and all of those things. I need you to check in randomly and say, hey, did you do this activity there? That alone is going to get me to move, right? So I guess what I would say is do a little introspection of yourself and see what your strengths and weaknesses are. Share that with your manager, and then what they can do to help you in those areas.
Wow. Yeah. If anybody had done that, and if I have, if I go out and do that to my manager, I think it's going to be game changing. This is figure out your weaknesses and work with your manager to improve them. I love that last piece of advice, Josh. And thank you so much for jumping on and giving us some, in-depth knowledge into how you coach, along with how to develop a better mindset for coaching. And excited to continue watching you grow.
Yeah, absolutely, Luis. I really appreciate it. And I'll leave you with one piece that I do want to say after this is that there's no silver bullet for sales coaching. It's very similar to a sales process or someone's style. What I do works for me, and there's people that have a vastly different approach that are more successful than me within Gartner as well. So I would say to the people that watching this podcast, really, again, explore yourself, figure out what you're strong in. And if this style doesn't suit you, figure out what works, and just make sure your people know that they're supportive, that you believe in them, and that ultimately you have their collective goals in mind, and success will come your way.
Amazing advice, Josh Fabel. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.